Okay, rapid game number 4 against SkyCon 79. Alright, d4, d5, c4. Let's see if we get a QGD again. Yeah, QGD again. I'm expecting a knight f6. And then I'll probably play right back into the Carlsbad. No, okay, so c6. Signaling his intention to play either a Slav or maybe a Stonewall. Okay, a few different options here. Knight f3 seems very flexible. Either f5 or knight f6 here, and we get a semi-Slav. Bishop d6. Okay, so delaying the development of this knight for the time being. Let's play e3 and knight e7. So normally the knight comes to f6, and I wonder what the drawback of putting the knight on e7 would be. The obvious thing is that from e7 the knight does not control my e4 break. So maybe that's what I should be playing for. Probably not straight away. I'm not sure if I'm ready to open the position, but maybe bishop d3, e4 castles. No, additionally from e7, the knight doesn't have easy access to, if he's still intending f5, which I assume maybe that's what he's doing, the knight doesn't have easy access to the e4 outpost. Although this knight does. Has a fairly convenient route there. So I wonder if I should be playing e4 preemptively before f5, but am I really worried about that? Because then this knight just becomes terrible. Let's start with this. He can take on c4 if he likes and play b5 in normal Slav fashion, or semi-Slav fashion. Okay. Now I wonder whether I should be playing for e4 before he gets in knight f6. e4 takes, knight f, or e4 takes him on the bishop. That's one thing. e4, if he doesn't take and just plays knight f6, he gets forked. e4 takes on c4, takes. Maybe that's what he wants. e4 takes on c4, bishop takes, and either c5 or e5. I think I'm going to do it. Just open up my dark square bishop. So I could have played a little bit more coy with b3 and bishop b2 and just fianchettoing that bishop, but this seems like a more active continuation. So the knight comes to f8, which is pretty unusual, and it signals to me that I kind of want to open the position as soon as I can, while his king is a little bit stuck. It's highly unclear to me where that knight is going. I think that's just bad. Maybe I can't punish it immediately, but so I can take and play e5. I can play e5 straight away. I can just castle. Start with castling. And f6. Okay. Yeah, I'd really like to just blast open the center now. Maybe takes, e5, takes. Maybe just rook e1. Maybe e5 straight away. So takes, e takes, e5 takes, pawn takes, bishop moves. And also whenever he takes back this way, I can play knight g5 maybe. I just don't know whether I should be inserting it or not, but given the time situation, let's insert the capture, play e5. So takes, maybe this. Oh, this is ugly. There's no way. Okay, I can just take on f6 for one thing, and he's way far behind development. This diagonal is very weak. Even looking at some stuff like takes, knight e5 takes, queen h4 or queen h5. Maybe he wants to put a rook on the g file, but I find that hard to believe. Let's open things up. Let's take. Just put a rook on the open file quickly, since I'm down about 3.5 minutes here. Okay, maybe I can play bishop h6 and threaten to win this bishop. I think he wants queen d7 and castles long. I think that's what he's aiming for. So in light of that, maybe this seems like an interesting idea, with the idea queen h5 check. So let's play that, just opening up my queen and controlling g6 importantly. So after queen h5, he can't really block on g6 because I take, the rook hangs. Now maybe this. I wonder how he defends this pawn. I don't think he can. I can also play knight f5. I can also play knight g6. Knight g6 is actually kind of interesting. If the rook moves, I take and take on e6. Let's just do it. Don't have much time. If he takes with a knight, then e7 knight, I guess I just take back. If he takes with this knight, I guess I take on e6, and then I'm threatening this piece. I don't think he has any threats on h2. Not while all his pieces are gummed up and the queen has no access to d6. Okay, so let's take here. So now I'm threatening this. For example, queen d7 I can take and the knight's pinned. Maybe tries to run with the king. Okay. So queen e2. Seems fine. Maybe not. I need to be a little bit careful about my rook getting trapped, like knight f8. I guess I can just move the rook back. So what's he looking for? What does he want here? Takes, he has to take with a knight. Yeah, I'm going to need to speed up a little bit. I need to finish my development too. I think he wants to bring the knight here. Then I just block with this, maybe. Yeah, he can't move the knight without dropping. Okay. Again, he's just trying to bluster me on the clock. Okay. So now maybe I'm threatening to take here and take on e7. Yeah, and I mean, he can't really move this knight without, he has too many tactical issues. He's just very pinned up here. If he moves this knight, I take with check, and then I can defend the mate. Okay, so I can take here. Take here, knight takes, take your queen takes, take on e7. Should be winning. I guess I could have also taken on f6. Okay, no mates. Let's take here. And now, despite the time situation, I should be able to clean up. Even looking at ideas like knight d5 and bishop b4, just bring my last piece into the affray. Okay, and now my opponent has abandoned. I'm going to need to sit this down, which is quite a shame. So I won't be able to analyze this. But let's go back. Maybe I can analyze it without the board. Okay, QGD, and he plays this Slav move order, or semi-Slav move order, with bishop d6 and the unusual knight e7. Yeah, and I thought his idea was maybe to play for f5 and bring this knight into e4, but instead he brought his knight to f8, which cannot be good. It's just underdeveloping your knight, spending 2 tempo in the opening on the same minor piece, leaving your king in the center, and letting me get this enormous lead in development. Yeah, so I'll be curious if the engine agrees with e4. I think it made some sense since he was playing so slowly, just to break open the center. Yeah, bring my pieces into the attack, open the center while the king is still on e8. So I was content with this continuation here, taking and playing e5 and making sure I can open up the e file. And then I just have too many threats. So let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, I'm most curious about that e4 moment. E4 immediately. Okay, so I save a move on e3, which kind of makes some sense because normally the normal move order is knight f6 first, and I guess that's just to clamp down on e4. Okay, yeah, this would have been far more energetic. So e3, bishop d3, and here, yeah. So I did waste a tempo on e3, but he's also wasting quite a bit of time. Yeah, I can always just fianchetto if I want to. b3, bishop b2. Okay, but e4 makes some sense here. And if he plays a normal kind of semi-Slav fashion with takes and b5, I suppose I'm just dropping the bishop back. So from e2 it's a little bit more sheltered, but from b3 maybe I still control the possibility of some d5 breaks later on, and looking down this long diagonal as well. Okay, but after knight f8, which, yeah, does not make a great deal of sense to me, engine suggests blocking things up immediately with e5 and then castling. h4, interesting, and just, so this to me is kind of echoes of a French, like a winnower or something along those lines, where you just rush the h-pawn and claim all that space. In some cases, you can swing the rook into the affray, the g3, and then black will strike back in the center. Yeah, but f6 is just very weakening. So it takes an e5. Huh. Okay, so maybe just rook e1, and I can break open the e-file regardless. Takes, and bishop drops back. This is pretty surprising to me that black is still so solid. Only a very minor advantage to white. Surprising I don't have any immediate kind of tactical knockouts like knight g5, f4, queen checks from h5, and sacks on g6 or something. But I guess I don't. If I drop this pawn, just rook e1, queen f3. Can't actually defend this square, can he? Here, takes, and his light squares are terminal. And he's just dropping the bishop or the rook. Hmm. Well, after allowing me to take on f6, I think he's just positionally busted. Yeah, and this is very loose to me. It just feels very loose given the fact that his bishop has only the one defender, which is a knight by his king, and I can just target that directly. Could play bishop h6 threatening to take, or just open up the queen. I thought bishop here, queen d7. Okay, the idea is bishop here and takes on f6, I suppose. But why should I be expending more tempo just to win another pawn and bring his rook into the open g file? That made a lot of sense just to prevent him from castling long with knight h5 or knight h4 and queen h5. And h5 is just to open up his rook's control over this square. The engine does not like that move. So takes, check, takes, and the king runs to f7 and is safe. No way. Yeah. I guess he can just contest the e file too easily. Like if I defend the rook, just rook e8, and then he's very solid. Material is equal, and like all his pieces are fairly active. Go here, queen d7 and rook e8, or even just start his own attack along the open g file. Wow. Yeah, this looks really nice for black actually. All of a sudden, the pendulum has kind of swung in his favor because I'm not accomplishing anything on the open e file, whereas he has threats against my king. Huh, but I had what, a minute here? Yeah, I needed to speed up. I thought about this too. I'm not sure how he defends his pawn. Here, check, blocks, and I guess the king just sits reasonably comfortably on f7. It's pretty surprising. And all his pieces are flooding in. If I have to retreat, then his opening all of a sudden makes some sense. Wow. Okay. I felt like there must be something here, but evidently I misplayed it with knight g6. Okay. So knight e2 strikes me as a more positional approach to the position as opposed to just trying to blast things open tactically. I think the idea of knight e2 is to bring a knight to the very weak f5 outpost, knight e2 to g3 to f5, and queen f3, and just contending that, given the fact that he's allowed me to take on e7, rupture his pawn chain over here, I just have some really nice outposts to work with in the long term. So something like this, let's take queen d7. Let's just pretend this isn't hanging and take a look at what the idea is positionally and bringing a piece to this outpost. Hmm. Yeah, queen g7 was a big mistake. Just allowed my rook to remain on e6. Yeah, here he's just way too gummed up. I don't think he can get himself out of all these pens. He's penned here. This knight is hanging. These knights are kind of tied to each other, so neither can move. And his king is just very exposed. And he just started dropping some pieces. Okay. Wish my opponents wouldn't sit down the clock, but good game nonetheless.